So they give you the name of the salt, that it is a copper 2 chloride. And solid M is a different salt. So we don't know anything right now about solid M. The test on solids and some of the observations are shown. So test on solid appearance, how it looks like. It is a copper salt. So most of the copper salt, what is the appearance of the copper salt? The copper salts are mostly
blue,
blue in color. So we'll mention it will be
blue
a
salt.
blue solid, because salts are solid at room temperature, so it is a blue solid. Or blue you can also mention, because I already mentioned that appearance of solid L. Then a distilled water is added. So what we did, we make a solution, we made an aqueous solution by adding a distilled water to solid L and we shake. So we take a container, we dissolve this, and we divide into 4 test tubes. So we have 4 different test tubes. First, what we did, we add aqueous ammonia was added to a first portion, and drop wise and then excess. So if we have a copper salt, like example, if you have a salt which contain a copper 2 ion and you are adding aqueous ammonia drop wise, what will be the observation initially? If we have a copper salt and we are adding an aqueous ammonia, you can see here this table already I shared with you. A copper salt and we are adding aqueous ammonia or other ammonia solution. So you can see here, first, if we have a copper salt and we are adding a drop wise ammonium hydroxide or aqueous ammonia. So what is the initial observation? It will be a blue PPT. And then when we add an excess, what we'll observe, the precipitate will dissolve and it will form a deep blue solution or a dark blue solution. So same thing you have to write here, that what will happen, what will the observation? First, it will form a blue PPT. So 1 mark is for mentioning blue and 1 mark is for mentioning PPT, which dissolve in excess. And as a result, when it dissolves in excess, it will form a deep blue solution or inky blue solution or the royal blue solution. So the distribution of the marks, when you mention blue, you will score 1 mark. Precipitate, you will score the 2nd mark. Mentioning a deep blue, 3rd mark. And mentioning a solution, like it dissolved, that is the 4th mark. Then we are adding excess of sodium hydroxide. So if we are adding excess of sodium hydroxide, again, this is a test for the ions. So this is for sodium hydroxide. So if we have a copper salt and we are adding sodium hydroxide in excess, so what is the observation? It will form a blue precipitate which does not dissolve. So simply we will write here blue PPT. Or you can say blue precipitates. Then nitric acid is added to a 3rd portion followed by silver nitrate. Nitric acid followed by silver nitrate. This is a test for halide. This is used to test the chloride ion, or we can also test the bromide ion, or we can test the iodide ion by this way. All the 3 ions can be tested. In the beginning of the question, they already mentioned that this salt is a copper 2 chloride. So if a salt contains a chloride ion and we are adding a silver nitrate, so you can see a dilute nitric acid followed by silver nitrate. If there is a chloride ion, what is the observation? The observation is white precipitate or white PPT. So here we will write white precipitate. You can write in exam also, instead of writing full precipitate, you can write PPT. It is acceptable. Then the last one, dilute nitric acid to the 4th portion followed by barium nitrate. This aqueous barium nitrate or barium chloride is a test for sulfate ion. Like if you want to test a sulfate ion in any salt, we use this method. But because in this, they already mentioned this is a copper 2 chloride salt, means it contains a copper ion and a chloride. There's no sulfate. So we are doing a test, but that ion is not present. So what we'll say? We'll say there is no visible change or no reaction. So no change or no reaction you can mention. If the ion is not present in the solution and you are doing a test for that ion, in that case, you will mention there is no change or no reaction. Test on solid M. So we have a solid M. Tests are carried out on the following observations are made. The first thing, it's a white crystal. So what this gives an idea, if a appearance is a white, it means it does not contain any transition element, like no transition element is there or does not contain any transition element. Why you identify? Because the transition element, they form a colored compound. Then a solid was heated and the gas is given off, tested with a damp red litmus. A sublimate formed on the side of a test tube and a litmus paper.
So, Mr. It's alkaline.
It's alkaline. This gives an idea because this gives an idea it's an alkaline. And most of the iodide salts, they sublimate, like convert directly from solid to gas. So this gives an idea when it sublimate, it just gives an idea, rough idea that maybe it is an iodide salt. Because most of the iodide salt sublimate. Then solid M was dissolved in water and sodium hydroxide was added and we heated. So if we are heating, if we are adding sodium hydroxide and heat, a pungent gas is given off. What is this pungent gas? This gas is ammonia. And what are the ions present? Because adding a sodium hydroxide and heat, if a ammonia gas is given off, so it means it contains ammonium ion, NH4 ion. That is the test for the ammonium ion. As you can see here, when we test the ammonium ions, this is a test for ammonium ion. Ammonium ion means NH4 ion. So we add sodium hydroxide and heat. A pungent gas is given off, which will turn red litmus paper blue. So if a red litmus paper turned blue, it means that ammonia gas is there. But adding a sodium hydroxide and heat gives an idea that this salt is ammonium salt, because ammonium salt with alkali gives off ammonia. So, and then nitric acid followed by silver nitrate, it will give a yellow precipitate. So what gives an idea? If nitric acid followed by silver nitrate, a yellow PPT. Yeah, that's right. It gives an idea it's iodide. And you can see from this table as well, if you are adding a nitric acid followed by silver nitrate and a yellow precipitate, it means that iodide is there. So this gives an idea that it is ammonium iodide. So identify solid M. So what is solid M? It contains ammonium ion and iodide. So it is ammonium iodide. So this one is May, June 2016. Two substances C and D were analyzed. Solid C was a salt and D is a aqueous solution of chromium 3 chloride. So this gives an idea, like they give you the name of the salt, that D is a chromium 3 chloride. Test on solid C. So first we are testing solid C. The first one, solid C was added a distilled water and solid C was added to a distilled water and a test tube was shaken and dissolved. The solution was divided into two portions. Appearance of a solution is a colorless liquid. So again, when a liquid is a colorless liquid, it might be acid, it might be alkali, or it might be a salt solution, but salt solution of what? Salt solution of non-transition element, like it does not contain transition element. So colorless solution or a white solid gives an idea that there is no transition element. Then the pH of the first portion, so it is pH 7 is there, so it is a neutral solution. Then what we did, a dilute nitric acid was added to a second portion, and it gives cream color precipitate. So yes, Mahmoud, that's correct. So cream color precipitate, as I mentioned, in a test for the ions. So when we are testing the ions, if we are getting nitric acid followed by silver nitrate and we are getting a cream precipitate, so this gives an idea that this is a bromide ion. So the first thing indicate that there is a bromide ion, that this salt contain a bromide ion. Then a flame test was done in a yellow flame. So flame color you have to learn, like potassium is lilac, sodium is yellow, lithium is red, copper is blue green. So this gives an idea because it's a yellow. So it gives an idea it's a sodium. So identify solid C. So what is solid C? It contains sodium, it contains bromide. So what is the name of the compound? So it is sodium bromide.
Sodium bromide.
Then, yeah, that's right, sodium bromide. The next one, describe the appearance of solution D. Solution D, they already mentioned it is a chromium 3 chloride. So means the transition element is there. Transition element chromium is there. And there's a chloride ion they already mentioned. So if you have a transition element chromium, so normally what are the color for chromium solutions, chromium salt solutions? They are normally green in color. So you'll mention here. So if it was a copper, we normally write blue. If it is chromium, then it is green. Tests were carried out on solution D. Complete the observations for test 1, 2, and 3. So we are adding a sodium hydroxide, drops of aqueous sodium hydroxide was added to solution D. And then in excess. So if we have a chromium and we are adding sodium hydroxide, so we'll observe gray-green precipitate, which dissolve to form a green solution. Yeah, initially it will be a green precipitate, and which in excess it will form a dissolve to form a green solution. So here you will write green PPT, dissolve to form green solution. And then the next one, test 2, aqueous ammonia is added. So if aqueous ammonia is added, so it will be a gray-green precipitate with chromium. Then nitric acid followed by silver nitrate, and there's a chloride ion. So if it's a chloride ion, what is the observation? What is the appearance? It will give a white PPT. Then a chromium 3 can be converted into chromium 4. Chromium 4 is hazardous. State 1 safety precaution. So when we have something, yeah, you can write green precipitate, that is correct. So you can mention here, because you are using something hazardous, so you can mention use gloves, wear goggles. So use gloves or wear goggles will reduce the effect. Is it clear, this one from summer 16 paper?
Yes, sir, clear.
In this question, solid P was an aluminum salt, so means it contains aluminum ion. Test on solid P and some of the observations are shown. Test on solid P. Solid P was divided into 3 portions. The first portion was heated and a condensation formed. So whenever when you are heating a salt, a solid salt, and a condensation forms, so what this gives an idea? This gives an idea it contains water crystallization, or it is a hydrated salt. So you have a salt, you are heating it, and as a result, you will observe water droplets near the mouth of this test tube. So what this gives an idea? It gives an idea that water molecules are released, or this is hydrated salt. Like this salt contain water of crystallization. Any gas given out was tested with a cobalt chloride paper. Actually, this is a test for the to check the presence of water. So a cobalt chloride paper turned from blue to pink. So this gives an idea that there is a water. So what does test one indicate? It means it is a hydrated salt, or you can also mention it contains water of crystallization. A flame test was carried out on a second portion, and it is an aluminum salt. You mentioned solid P was aluminum salt. So you have learned the flame color for lithium, sodium. So for aluminum, there will be no change. Like there's no specific flame color for aluminum, so that's why we are saying no change or no color. In test on solution P, the distilled water was added to a rest of solution P, and several drops of sodium hydroxide were added, and then in excess. So if you have aluminum and you're adding a sodium hydroxide, so if you have aluminum, you're adding a sodium hydroxide, so it will give white PPT. And in excess, what will happen? The precipitate will dissolve to form a colorless solution. So the answer here, it will be a white PPT which dissolve to form a colorless solution. So white precipitate dissolves to give colorless solution. Then test 4, several drops of aqueous ammonia was added, and aluminum salt. So if you are adding an aqueous ammonia and there's an aluminum salt, so aluminum is there, aqueous ammonia, white PPT, and precipitate does not dissolve. So the answer here, it will be white PPT, insoluble in excess. Then 2 further tests were carried out on the following observations made. Test on solution B, nitric acid followed by silver nitrate to a third portion and no visible change. So if we don't observe any visible change, what we can say about this? We can say that this salt does not contain any halide. There is no chloride ion, there is no bromide ion, and there is no iodide ion. So it does not contain chloride, bromide, or iodide. So test 5 indicate that there is no halide. And what about test 6? Nitric acid followed by barium nitrate. So this is a test for sulfate ion. So if we are getting a white PPT, so it means that it contains a sulfate. Identify solution solid P. So they already mentioned in the beginning that it contains aluminum, and this test indicate that it contains a sulfate ion. So this is aluminum sulfate. And describe the appearance. Whenever you have group 1, 2, 3 or ammonium salt, what is the appearance of these? These all are white solid. It's not does not contain a transition element. So if they're asking for appearance of solid, it will be white. If they ask appearance for the solution, we'll mention a colorless solution. Is it clear, this question?
Yes, Mr. Clear.